What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Tottenham Lens. Hope you are all well. My name is Anthony. I am your host for today, and we are going to discuss all things Cristian Romero. So, Cristian Romero, the Argentine defender, is currently at the World Cup with Argentina. They will be featuring in the final against Spain on Sunday evening. The reports suggest that Tottenham fully expect Romero to leave this summer, and he's not part of Roberto De Zerbi's plans. So, what will this look like for Tottenham in terms of this defensive rebuild? So let's get into it. According to Team Talk, Tottenham are working on the assumption that Roberto De Zerbi does not want Romero in the squad, and they want to resolve his future during the extended break. So Romero has entered into the final 2 years of his contract, and if there's any uncertainty over whether he'll sign a new deal, it's perfectly normal for a football club to prepare for possible scenarios. So this is normally the case. If a player, whether it's at Tottenham or other clubs, if a player is showing no signs of renewing their contract, then they generally do start to prepare for that player's move away from the club. This is something that well-run clubs do. They don't wait until the player has 1 year left on their contract before making difficult decisions. They plan ahead, and Tottenham appear to be doing exactly that. One interesting claim in the report is that Roberto De Zerbi wasn't completely convinced by certain off-field aspects surrounding Romero. Team Talk don't explain what those concerns are. I think we all could potentially assume what they are, but they haven't confirmed it. From a football perspective, how De Zerbi, demands defenders who are composed on the ball, positionally disciplined, consistently available. Nobody questions, Romero's ability. His ability is there from day dot. He's won the World Cup already. He's now moving on to hopefully winning a second World Cup. He's won the Europa League with us, Tottenham. No one doubts on his ability. On his day, he's one of the Premier League's best centre backs. He has an aggressive nature. He's front-footed. He's dominant in his duels. An outstanding ball-playing defender. But it's also fair to say, on the other hand, that Tottenham have been interrupted by his injuries, his suspensions. Availability is one of the valuable qualities a player can have, and unfortunately, Romero has missed significant periods through muscle injuries over the past few seasons. That doesn't make him a bad player. It really doesn't. Sorry, 1 second. It doesn't make him a bad player, but it's something Tottenham will undoubtedly, consider when planning for the future. The report also claims, Tottenham signing, the signing of Jan-Paul Van Hecke and Marcos Senesi were made with Romero's potential departure in mind. If this is the case, it certainly provides Tottenham with greater depth, which is something that we've been asking for. It's standard. If you're going to compete in the Premier League, whether it's top end, avoiding relegation, European places, etc., just mid-table finish, you need some form of depth in your squad. It's a no-brainer. Van Hecke brings comfortable, progressing the ball from defence, reads the game well, and has already proven himself in the Premier League. And he's an international player who plays alongside Mickey van der Ven. Senesi brings experience again, aggression, aerial strength, and the versatility of being left-footed. Just adds that balance to our squad. Senesi, another player at the World Cup. I think he's only featured in one of the games, maybe two potentially, coming on as a sub. But again, with Bournemouth, he has gone from strength to strength and ended the season being their club player of the year. So again, we're strengthening the squad and making sure we have depth and balance. Another key talking point to the report is his asking price. Team talk suggests that Tottenham would ideally would want around 50 million, but could have ultimately set closer to 40 million because Romero's injury history. Personally, this is where I think a lot of opinions differ. All over the social media, internet, etc. Romero is still only in his late 20s. He says he's about 28, if I remember accordingly. He's a World Cup winner. I totally forgot. Copa America winner as well. And one of the most experienced defenders in European football. At the same time, his contract situation and injury record naturally affects the value. So, yes, he's got 2 years in his contract left. Would I potentially want to, accept 40 million for somebody who, yes, we do. There's an eagerness to sort of get rid of him, allow him to depart. But at the same time, we signed Van Heck for 52 million. Yes, he's a bit younger, and I think also he had 1 year left on his contract. If Romero's got 2, then why would we want anything less than 50 million? The main thing is Romero. He's a quality defender. Issue is obviously, I think the main issue is just certain things off the pitch, which brings a lot of distraction. So the question is, who wants him? Who wants Romero? Who wants to have him in the team? So according to Team Talk, there's currently 4 clubs that have shown interest. You have Inter Milan, who are believed to have discussed Romero during conversations with Tottenham regarding Jed Spence, and also with Alessandro Bastoni were to leave, Romero is reportedly viewed as one of the ideal replacements. Real Madrid also remain interested as they continue to searching for another central defender. So obviously they've brought in Cucurella, they've brought in Konate, and they want to bring in another defender. And obviously Jose Mourinho, he's already worked with Romero, if I'm correct, or maybe I'm not correct. I don't think, maybe he hasn't. But I'm sure he would, be interested in a strong Argentinian, hard-working, battling centre-back such as Romero. Barcelona are said to, again, they admire Romero as well, although any real move will depend lightly on player sales because of their financial situation. And they've also recently bought Adeyemi and Anthony Gordon. And finally, you have Atletico Madrid. Again, Simeone's been a massive fan of Romero. I think he will definitely fit well into Atletico's playing style. He'll definitely add to their squad. Atletico, they're going to continue to monitor him. But those are 4 huge clubs, and it only highlights how highly Romero is regarded across Europe. The issue is obviously for some of these clubs is just a financial situation in regards to it. The biggest question is whether Tottenham actually need to sell him. Now, from a financial perspective, the answer is probably no, just because we're already in a healthy financial position. The club benefits from, the significant stadium revenue, growing commercial income, the Champions League football, obviously the Champions League money that we made from last year. This isn't a club that's under pressure to sell players because of financial regulations. But if Romero leaves, it would likely be because both Tottenham and the player believe it's right time for him to move on, rather than the club needs the money. I think from a personal point of view, also to add to that, I think they will sell him to more keep the peace in the camp. I think that's a massive thing. There's no point having players on your books who's turning up to training and, potentially, growing disharmony in the team. So again, I think that would be another reason to obviously sell him, especially as Romero. He's a strong character. He's a strong character. We know this. He has no shame in terms of talking over social media, etc., or talking to Argentinian press. So it'll be best to sell him. But it's quite simple. I actually believe Tottenham have prepared for the possibility that Romero will be leaving. All elite clubs do this, and it's shown in terms of who we currently have. In terms of our centre back, obviously we have Kevin Danzo, we have Senesi, we have Mickey van der Ven, and Jan-Paul van Hecke. So already that shows you that's 4 solid centre backs. Now I could be wrong. I could be absolutely eating my hat, and it could be something presented to us that Kevin Danzo leaves and Romero stays, and then it's a totally different conversation. But at this stage, I do think, and I do believe Cristian Romero will go. The case is obviously, the price. Now, I want to hear from you guys. If Tottenham offered around 40 to 50 million for Cristian Romero, would you accept it? Or would you keep him as part of the rebuild, as part of Roberto De Zerbi's defence around him? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe to the Tottenham Lens. If you haven't already, turn on your notifications so you never miss another Tottenham upload. And always, thank you very much for watching. Come on, you Spurs.